I want to give a special thanks to the Canton Regional Chamber of Commerce and the repository for putting on this event today. It's a great lineup of speakers. I've really been very pleased and very interested in the speakers I've heard so far today. I also would like to give special thanks to Craig Young from Young Trucks. Craig reached out to me several months ago and invited me to participate here today, and I appreciate that. Craig's Volvo and Freightliner dealers here in the region have been very much early adopters of natural gas and very encouraging in the use of natural gas in the trucking industry. Today, I'd like to take about 45 minutes here before the break and talk about things that burn natural gas. Natural gas trucks and buses and the engines that make them go. Before I do that, let me see if I can figure out how to make this work. I go the other way, don't I? It was an intelligence test and I failed. I'll try to get it right from now on. I do a very narrow, I focus very narrowly on the on-highway natural gas market for my employer, Cummins. I want to give you just one slide, if you'll indulge me, and let me tell you a little bit about broadly what Cummins does. Cummins is a global manufacturer, probably best known for engines. We manufacture both diesel and natural gas engines from 50 horsepower up to 3,000 horsepower. I'm only going to talk to you today about on-highway natural gas engines. We actually make both diesel and natural gas engines that power things both on-highway and off-highway. And so in the off-highway market, you might see our engines in things like mining trucks, in oil and gas market, in power generation, marine, other markets like that. In addition to engines, we also do power generation equipment, electrical power generation equipment, and we also have divisions that make components that primarily go in engines, things like turbochargers, filtration devices, exhaust aftertreatment devices, and fuel systems. So that's sort of what Cummins does. We're a $17 billion corporation with about 45,000 employees, headquartered in the other Columbus, Indiana, which is much smaller than the Columbus you folks own here. In this part of the world, we're very pleased to have our customers directly supported by our distributor, which is Cummins Bridgeway. Cummins Bridgeway has about 15 branch locations spread across southern Michigan, western Pennsylvania, and of course the state of Ohio. And they do a great job of supporting our customers here across all those markets that I just described. In my role, I often get the opportunity to talk to fleets, operators who for fleet, both truck and bus fleets. And one of the concerns sometimes voiced to me is they're a little nervous about trying natural gas because it's a new technology, and they're afraid to risk their investment dollars on a new technology. And so one of the things I often tell them is, this isn't all that new of a technology. Natural gas engines were first invented by, a natural gas engine was first invented by a Belgian inventor in Paris in the 1860s, about 150 years ago. That predated the diesel engine by 30 years. So natural gas engines have actually been around here much longer than that. They were refined through the late 1800s, early 1900s, and by the say 1920s, 1930s, they were being used in commercial vehicles. The truck that's pictured there, if I've got the right slide up, is a truck in the United Kingdom in the late 1930s. It's a parcel delivery truck operating on natural gas. That thing on the roof, that's not a sofa. That's the natural gas tank. They didn't have compressed natural gas tanks like we do today, and so what they used was a canvas bag that was rubberized to seal it and very low pressure. And of course, you expect the driver would have to go through some training about watch low bridges when you're operating a device like that. The market for the commercial vehicle, natural gas commercial vehicle market has evolved quite a bit since that truck I just showed you, particularly in the last, say, dozen years or so. And it really, if I went back a dozen years, say early 2000, you'd find most natural gas commercial vehicles in this country were transit buses. At the time, transit, the EPA had a more stringent emission requirement for transit buses than they did general vehicles, and natural gas power was one way of achieving that stringent emission cycle. Over the years, through the middle of the decade, It's sort of evolved into other urban vehicles like garbage trucks, a great application for natural gas vehicles. They operate in urban areas, and again, the clean exhaust of a natural gas engine was really beneficial in urban applications like refuse. And then what's changed most recently, say in the last 5 to 7 years, is natural gas engines and power have migrated into regional haul trucks. And that's really sort of a new phenomenon that really started in maybe 2008, 2009. Now, in that time frame, from 2000 to 2012 that I'm showing here, the red line indicates the sale of natural gas commercial vehicles in the U.S. And you can see it's a very rapid growth rate, starting sort of small down there when the buses were the only thing using natural gas, and it's grown rapidly. Now, it's still a small portion of the overall commercial vehicle market, but you can see by the slope of that line, it's increasing rapidly. Well, you know, one of the things driving this is, if I went to the left-hand side of that screen, 2000, oil and natural gas were trading about parity with each other in terms of the cost per energy. As I move to the right side of that screen, you know, we're in an environment today where oil and natural gas, where natural gas is 1/5 the cost of crude oil, and certainly the economics has been a big driver for people adopting natural gas in more and more units. Now, let's talk a little bit about that bus market. Buses have been using natural gas for a long time, and you know, there's a wide range of natural gas buses out there, whether those be transit buses, BRT, bus rapid transit, shuttle, school buses, just about every type of application you can think of a bus. There's a bus somewhere in North America operating natural gas. And if you look at sort of who, since it's been around for a while, virtually every bus manufacturer produces a natural gas option. So those transit bus manufacturers may not be names that you're familiar with, but people like Gillig and Nova and New Flyer are the dominant dominant transit bus manufacturers in the U.S. And you can see from the little red dots there that they all have a natural gas engine option. That engine listed there, the ISLG, is a 9-liter natural gas engine that works real well in transit buses. And then on the right side of the screen are school bus manufacturers, and 2 out of the 3 primary school bus manufacturers in North America also offer natural gas options. In total, you'd find about 15 to 20% of the transit buses produced these days are natural gas, so about 1/5 of the transit buses in North America are natural gas. The other market I called out there was the truck market, and I think we sometimes have a perception that natural gas is only offered in, say, refuse trucks, or only offered in over-the-road trucks. Actually, you can go to OEMs today and find just about any configuration of natural gas truck you'd like. So whether it's an over-the-road tractor trailer, or you're looking for a mixer, or a snowplow, or a dump truck, a utility truck, you can get a natural gas vehicle configured the way you want. So really, for just about any business, you can find a natural gas truck configured the way your business needs it. And likewise, the chart you're looking at here showing the truck brands that are offering natural gas. On the left, you'll see a term called COE. That stands for cab over engine. Think of a refuse form. There's also a 12-liter engine, which I'll talk about in just a bit more, that most of those truck brands also offer. And then Westport Innovations offers a 15-liter engine through the 2 PACCAR brands, Kenworth and Peterbilt. So from 9 liters to 15 liters, there are engines available as options among the major North American truck manufacturers today. Now, I've been talking about trucks and buses and natural gas. Let's talk a little bit about how they're different from their diesel counterparts. And hopefully you've got a chance today to go out and take a look at a couple of the trucks that are setting out here on display. The first thing you'll notice about them are they have natural gas fuel tanks. And you can see tanks there, both CNG and LNG. CNG stands for compressed natural gas. We pressurize natural gas and put it in, we compress it and put it in a pressurized tank. That's called compressed natural gas. Or we can cool it until it condenses into a liquid and put it, store it in liquid form, and that's called liquefied natural gas. And you can see those 2 tanks there, and the tanks were very visible on the trucks you saw outside there. The other thing that's unique about it, which maybe is not so noticeable when you look at the trucks, is they all have a natural gas engine and accompanying exhaust after-treatment system. I'm going to spend a little time talking about natural gas engines here for 2 reasons. One, that's what Cummins pays me to do. And two, natural gas engines have been a little bit of an impediment to adopting natural gas in truck fleets. There haven't been that many engines available for the truck OEMs or the bus OEMs to put into their vehicles. So let's talk a little bit more about natural gas engines. The other two brands here I need to mention here. Cummins is not the only product that has natural gas engines available in the marketplace. Westport Innovations has a 15-liter engine. Whoops, I skipped a slide here, didn't I? Oh, there's the slide I'm looking for. My apologies. Let's go through these first, then I'll go back to those other two, okay? Cummins manufactures two natural gas engines today, a 9-liter and a 12-liter. Those are the two in the center. The 9-liter is a 320 horsepower engine. The 12-liter is a 400 horsepower engine. Cummins is in the process of developing two more that you'll see produced here soon, a 6.7-liter engine, about 260 horsepower. 6.7-liter, for those of you not familiar, that'd be sort of like a school bus size engine, a medium-duty truck. As I move across that screen, then the 9-liter engine is good for, say, transit buses or the small end of the heavy-duty truck market. The 12-liter is really centered strongly in the heavy-duty truck market. And then on the far right side of the screen, you'll see 15-liter engine that's coming. It's what's under the red tablecloth, and that'll be produced in 2016. And that, again, is targeting really the long-haul truck market. So by 2016, we expect to have 4 natural gas truck and bus engines in the marketplace. There are a couple of other players here, and so again, I'm back to this slide that I went to originally. Westport Innovations has a 15-liter engine in the marketplace today that goes up to 475 horsepower, and Volvo has announced that they're going to be producing a 13-liter natural gas engine. They started showing that at trade shows this year, and that product will be in production next year. So now let's talk a little bit more about natural gas engines and how they work here. And first of all, I want to talk a little bit about this engine. This is the 12-liter engine that I showed you before. It's really targeted toward the heavy-duty truck market. It's 400 horsepower, 1,450 pound-feet, which is really great for, say, a regional haul delivery truck. It is spark ignited. I'll talk more about spark ignited in a minute. It runs on 100% natural gas. There's no diesel fuel or diesel emission fluid, for those of you who are familiar with today's diesel products. And it's sort of agnostic to how the fuel is stored on the vehicle. It can be either CNG or LNG. The engine doesn't know and doesn't care. It operates on either. Now, how does a natural gas engine? Oh, I got this slide in here. How many of you have baby pictures in your wallet, your purse? Kids, grandkids? Everybody likes everybody likes baby pictures. I've been at Cummins for 23 years. This is a baby picture when you work for an engine company for 23 years. This is our first 12-liter engine. I put it in here because our plant that builds this is only about 3 hours away east of here in Jamestown, New York. So they're right in the middle of this shale gas region of the world. And our employees there are really excited about the opportunity to be building natural gas engines in this region, because they, like you, recognize the significance and importance of natural gas to this part of the world. So let's see how this engine works. You take it, you put natural gas in one side, you combine that with air, and combine that with recirculated exhaust gas, or EGR, as you might have heard it, and those are blended and sit into the cylinder head. Now this combustion process works really a lot like the passenger car that you probably drove to this meeting today. The primary difference is gasoline. When a car mixes gasoline with air, gasoline's a liquid. Natural gas, in this case, is a gaseous substance, so the device on the side of the engine that mixes that has to mix both two gaseous substances, air and natural gas. It's sent into the cylinder head, and there we have a series of spark plugs. It's probably a little hard to see on there, but there's one spark plug per cylinder, just like there's one spark plug per cylinder on your passenger car. And we ignite this mixture in that cylinder head with the spark plug. Now, that's the reason we do that is natural gas really doesn't like to combust on its own, so we need something there to make it combust. So simply compressing the gas in, like you might do with a diesel engine, and causing it to ignite doesn't work. You need to actually have a sparking, something to spark it, and that's what we use that spark plug for. It's a very robust system. Again, it's very similar to what you use on your car or truck at home. It does have a couple of drawbacks, which you've probably heard about. A spark-ignited engine like this has a little less fuel economy than a corresponding diesel engine. So if you're running a diesel truck and getting 6.5 miles per gallon, I tell customers to expect about a 15% less miles per gallon, say 5.5 miles per gallon instead of the 6.5. And that's just the difference in the overall efficiency between a compression ignition engine like a diesel and a spark ignited engine like a natural gas engine. The other thing that is sort of a downside to this is it's got spark plugs. And truck and bus fleets don't really want to fool with spark plugs. But it is a maintenance item. It's not a huge, significant maintenance item, but it is a maintenance item that people have to change, just like you have to change spark plugs on your cars. As we go to the other side of the engine and the gases start to exit, they go through a turbocharger, much like you'd find on a diesel engine, and then from the diesel engine they go in, out the turbocharger and into the exhaust after treatment, which is a catalytic converter. Now, I'm going to show one slide on catalytic converter. I put this in because it's got the coolest animation of any slide I own in any of my slide decks. Is my animation working? Oh man, that was my best slide, guys. That had some really good animation. But anyway, let's talk about catalytic converters. This is a three-way catalyst. How many of you have been within 10 foot of a three-way catalyst today? We have a few people who know. There's one on the floorboard of your car. It's very similar to what goes in your car. There's typically every car has one or two catalytic converters under the floorboard. You don't think about it. You don't really care about it. Most of you didn't know it was there. And it's very similar for a catalytic converter in a natural gas truck or bus. And that's one of the really big advantages, things that people like about natural gas vehicles, is the catalytic converter is a no maintenance sort of forget about it device. For those of you who are not familiar with current diesel trucks and buses today, they have very complex, sophisticated exhaust after-treatment systems, which can tend to be expensive and have some maintenance items to them. So, on one hand, I've got spark plugs, which fleets don't like, but on the other hand, I have a very simple exhaust after-treatment system, which fleets do tend to like. Now, why are we talking at all about natural gas vehicles? It's the economics here, right? And you've seen a lot of discussion here today, and some really good, much better than I could, some really good descriptions of the comparison between natural gas and crude oil cost. I'm going to show you a little different look. I'm going to show you at the pump. So this is the difference between diesel and natural gas at the filling station or at the pump. So on the right side, you see diesel, which nationally trades for about $4 a gallon. And on the left-hand side, for the same energy content, which we call a diesel gallon equivalent, you can see natural gas trades for about $2.40, so a 40% differential. Now, you've heard discussions before, and I think I even talked about it at the beginning here for a minute. Crude oil and natural gas, there's about a 5-to-1 difference, right? Natural gas is about 1/5 the cost of crude oil. I don't get quite that differential when I get to the pump, but when you look at the bottom there, you see in the little green and the little red bars, that's the value of the raw material in that gallon that's dispensed. So for natural gas, of that $2.40 I see at the pump, only 50 cents of that was the value of the natural gas. The rest of it's transportation, it's keeping the lights on in the convenience store, it's profit, it's all those things. On the diesel side, crude oil takes up about $2.40 of that $4. So one of the interesting things about this is if natural gas doubles in price, today it's what, $3.60, $3.70 per million BTU. If it doubles, that 50 cents doubles to $1. And you can see that top bar doesn't move much above the 240. So there's a little bit of room here for natural gas prices to increase and not drastically impact the relationship between natural gas and diesel at the pump. Now let's take that differential, which was about $1.50, $4 minus 240 is $1.60. Let me round that to $1.50 so I can do the math easier. And as I show here, a vehicle that runs consumes 15,000 gallons of fuel a year would save that amount of money per year per vehicle switching from diesel to natural gas. Now, 15,000 gallons, is that a lot or not a lot? Well, a refuse truck that runs about 30,000 miles a year would burn about 15,000 gallons of fuel. A transit bus, a city transit bus that runs about 60,000 miles a year would burn about 15,000 gallons of fuel. An on-highway Class 8 over-the-road truck running about 100,000 miles a year would burn about 15,000 gallons. So those are all really sort of not unusual for those three types of applications to be able to save that much fuel a year. Now, that's sort of the theoretical limit. Do I actually get all of that in operation? Well, I told you just a few minutes ago that a spark-ignited natural gas engine gets a little less miles per gallon than a diesel, right? About 15% less. So let's take that 15% out. So it drops my bar down just a bit. And the other thing I talked about was maintenance, right? I've got spark plugs you've got to change, right? The fleets have to change. There's some other aspects of natural gas engines that add to that maintenance cost. And I also get some stuff back, like the exhaust after treatment. I don't have to fool around with the diesel particulate filters and SCR devices and other things that take maintenance. But let's say net, I spend a little bit more on maintaining my natural gas engine than I do a diesel. I still save that amount of money a year, per vehicle, per year. That's a lot of money, right? We have, you know, back in the engineering lab, we have thousands of engineers working on trying to save just a little bit of money a year for an operator. And here, by switching to natural gas, you can save that amount of money. Now let's take that and see, was that a good investment then for a truck fleet or a bus fleet or a refuse fleet? The slide I'm showing here is a payback slide. And so across the horizontal axis, we've notched out the differential in price between diesel and natural gas per gallon, right? And I've circled $1.50 because that's about what we saw in the national averages today. And then the vertical axis is payback in number of years. Now, why does there need to be a payback? Well, a natural gas vehicle costs more than a diesel. And for this example, I've assumed it costs $50,000 more. So you saw those trucks out there. Assume that those trucks cost $50,000 more than their diesel brothers and sisters. Okay? So there's an investment up front. How quickly do I get that payback? Well, if I burn 15,000 gallons of fuel a year, I get a $1.50 differential, and taking into account the maintenance cost and the less efficiency, I've still got less than a 3-year payback. So that's what's really driving the interest in the market. Now, 3-year payback, some fleets will go, that is fantastic, sign me up today. Some fleets will say, it's okay. Some fleets will say, I'll wait till it gets to 2 years, right? So there's a wide spread, but some people are converting today and finding that they get great returns depending upon the characteristics of their fleet. Now, for those of you who have been paying attention, you've seen I've sort of painted myself into a corner. Natural gas is great, it's cheap, the trucks are available, the engines are available, the buses are available. Why isn't every fleet converted to natural gas? Well, there are a couple of things here that sort of slow down that adoption. One of them is fuel station availability. There simply aren't as many natural gas fuel stations available today as there are the fleets. Now, I'm going to read that number here. There's exactly 121,466 gasoline stations in the U.S. right now, except as I was driving up last night from Indiana, I noticed one closed. So I think I'm going to have to change my slide. Now, there's fewer diesel stations, right? But there's still about 50,000 diesel stations, but not all of those could accept a Class 8 heavy-duty truck, right? They're built more for farm trucks and things like that. But if you think about the truck stops, the ones out on the interstates where, you know, really where people fill up their Class 8 trucks, their heavy-duty trucks, there's about 6,000 of those. In comparison, there's, you know, around 600 public natural gas stations out there, either CNG or LNG, and not all of those could accept a big truck. So that's certainly one roadblock or one thing that's slowing down the adoption for natural gas. So what we're seeing today are the fleets that are adopting to natural gas are those that are sort of return to base at night fleets. So they're ones where the vehicle goes out and does its job and then comes back to a central point at night, and you can put a fueling station in there. And often that's a private fueling station. Sometimes it's public and private, but it's one that is typically dedicated to that particular fleet. Now, there are people who are making really big investments to try to improve this. So Flying Jane Pilot, the truck stop folks, they're in collaboration with a company called Clean Energy Fuels, which is Boone Pickens' company, to put in fueling stations at truck stops across major interstate corridors. Travel Centers of America is doing the same thing with Shell. ENN, which is a Chinese company, is investing in putting in natural gas stations with a Salt Lake City company called Blue, and another truck stop chain, convenience store chain, Quick Stop, is also putting in, and I could probably name a few other, Love's and others. So people are making the investment today to put that in, and within a few years, trucks should be able to go long distances and have confidence that they could find a natural gas fueling station. The other sort of impediment are these tanks. Now, if you took a close look at at those trucks out there, the tanks sort of stood out, right, because they're sort of large. And what you'll find is that natural gas is difficult to package on a vehicle. And the reason is that at room temperature and pressure, natural gas is a gas. It's not very dense. And so to really, make it more dense and fit it onto a vehicle, I've got to do one of two things. I've either got to compress it and put it in a pressurized tank. That's compressed natural gas, and that's at 3,600 psi. Or I've got to cool it until it condenses into a liquid, which occurs at minus 260 degrees Fahrenheit, and store it as a liquid. So I've either got pressurized tanks or I've got big thermos bottles on the side of my vehicle. In either case, those are expensive and a fairly large size. So my example here is 150 gallons, and diesel is the baseline. If I'm using CNG tanks and trying to store the equivalent amount of energy of 150 gallons of diesel, my tanks will physically be 4 times in size. So that's a lot of space, and sometimes it packages well on vehicles, but other vehicles it doesn't. It'll also be heavier. It'll be about 2,000 pounds heavier than the diesel tanks, and it'll also cost more. Those tanks will cost about $30,000. LNG is a little better. It only takes up twice the space of diesel. It only weighs about 200 or 300 pounds more, again, a 150-gallon example. But again, the tanks are probably $25,000. I don't know what a diesel fuel tank costs, but I'm guessing $300 or $400. Maybe $500. So, a big difference between a diesel tank and natural gas. Now, there's a couple of reasons for this. One is, just the characteristics of natural gas make it difficult to put into store on a vehicle. But then there's also a volume thing, right? We're making a few thousand natural gas trucks a year. We're making hundreds of thousands of natural gas diesel trucks. So, there's a volume characteristic to this. And people are actively working on trying to make this better. ARPA-E, which is part of the U.S. Department of Energy, has put out money, $30 million to invest in companies that are looking on how to reduce the size, weight, and cost of natural gas tanks. And there are new players entering the market. 3M, the folks who bring us Post-it notes, are also bringing out a new natural gas CNG tank. And a little company here in Ohio, as an example, Trilogy, which is located a few miles north of here in, I believe it's Stowe, Ohio, is working on doing some natural gas packaging. So there are a lot more people coming into the market and innovating, and I think over time, as volume comes up, we'll see improvements in all those characteristics. So what's going to drive more adoption of natural gas? One is this relative differential between diesel fuel and natural gas has to stay the same or grow, right? Doesn't have to grow significantly. If it just stays the same, it's okay. But if it shrinks, then of course that takes the market away. So it's really that differential in fuel price that we think will stay there is one of the primary drivers. Certainly having lower cost fuel tanks, smaller tanks, lighter tanks is a key aspect, and having fueling infrastructure we think is also a key aspect. My company thinks there's a good market for this. As you saw, those engines we've developed and the new ones that are coming, they're still on the design boards that are coming to market. We're spending a lot of money to develop those. I'm talking only about the on-highway side and the off-highway side of our markets like mining and oil and gas. We're also investing in new natural gas products there as well. So clearly, we're placing our bets as a company with the fact that this is going to continue to be a low-cost fuel and will continue to be a growing market. So from an on-highway standpoint, this is sort of our prediction of the natural gas adoption rates. Heavy-duty trucks, we think will be sort of the 5 to 10% adoption rate within 5 years. Transit buses, sort of in that 15 to 20%. That's really where they are today. I could easily see it going to 35 or 40%. And then refuse trucks today are already in that 40% range of new refuse trucks nationally are natural gas, and we see that growing as well. Again, it's almost a perfect application for natural gas. So again, we clearly think this market is going to grow into the future. So final summary, this is a good opportunity for fleets. It's such a good opportunity that really every fleet that operates vehicles that consume a lot of fuel, where fuel is a big portion of their overall business operating cost, they really have to look at natural gas. They may just choose not to adopt it, but the competitive pressure on them to not look and investigate and make sure it's the right, the diesel is still the right fuel for them, they really should be looking at it. We're going to see improvements, we think, in the infrastructure, in fuel tanks, that's going to help make that payback even better. And clearly, we're investing our money in this market because we think all those factors are going to play favorably as we go into the future. And that's my last slide. Do I have time for questions?
Yes, and let me ask one, please. I'm really interested in the build-out of fueling stations for long-haul trucking. And you pointed out that a number of companies were starting to play in that area. Let's take Pilot Flying J as an example. Mm-hmm. Would you say generally that they're building them assuming the market will come if it's available, or do you think they're starting to respond to demand and realize they have to build them because customers are demanding them?
It's a regional, I think it's a regional answer. What they did was, I'll take Pilot Flying J and Clean Energy as an example. They went and mapped the interstate corridors, the truck traffic, and they picked locations that they thought were appropriate, and they started putting that in. And they found in some cases they put in stations and there is no demand today, and they're waiting for the trucks to arrive. So I live near Indianapolis, Indiana, at south end of 465, which is the loop around Indianapolis. There is a Pilot Flying J with an LNG station all ready to go, just waiting for a truck to arrive to do that. In other places, they found the demand, they've had to change their plans because they hadn't planned to put stations in, and they're finding customers wanting demand. So if I think about Texas, there's a nice Texas triangle between Dallas, San Antonio, and Houston where LNG stations are there, and there's active truck traffic across those. So it's a little bit of both depending upon where they've chosen to put stations.
Is it more likely that long-haul trucking will go liquid natural gas or compressed?
Boy, that's the $64 million question, I guess. It's really debated a lot in the industry, and I don't have a good answer for that. Today, 90%, I think it's probably fair to say that I broke the microphone. I think it's fair to say that 90% of the trucks, and probably more so on the, let me back up. I've got refuse buses, I've got transit buses, refuse, and all haul. It's virtually 100% of the transit buses and refuse are CNG. As I get to the long-haul trucks today, the regional haul trucks today, they're 90% CNG, I think. There are a few LNG, but it's probably a 90-10 sort of mix. And I really don't have a good feel for where it's going to go. There's advantages to both, depending upon the fleet and the fuel provider, and lots of different elements to that equation. Customers often ask me that question. I feel guilty because I can't really give them really good guidance on which fuel to choose. So I really don't know the answer to that.
Questions from the floor from people interested in trucking? Let me ask you again, does your company pursue an interest in trying to encourage or incentivize the creation of these fuel stations to better develop your product market?
We're not doing that today. What we're trying to do is present customers with the option. We want customers to take a look and say, I can buy a diesel vehicle, I can buy a natural gas vehicle. Which one best suits the operating characteristics of my business? Which one's going to make more profit for me? And we're wanting to be there and be available so they can make that choice, the right choice for them.
Well, join me in thanking Roe for being here with us today. Thank you very much.